Did Eve's temptation lead to enlightenment or banishment from Eden? The Lucifer debate. Lucifer's motivations, vengeance and vanity. Lucifer's temptation of Eve is a pivotal event in the Genesis narrative, leading to original sin and the fall of humanity. But what motivated the fallen archangel to deceive the first woman? While Scripture does not explicitly reveal reasons, some insights into Lucifer's incentives can be inferred. Most scholars concur that vengeance likely played a key role. Having been cast out from heaven, Lucifer harbored resentment towards God for his banishment. Deceiving God's favored new creations into ruining paradise could be an act of spite and retaliation against the divine. Casting doubt on God's authority and knowledge was also an affront. Convincing Eve to violate God's singular rule served to undermine his sovereignty and omniscience in the eyes of mankind. Beyond vengeance, Lucifer's immense pride and hubris perhaps drove him to achieve greater power and godlike status himself after losing his angelic role. If he could not be above God in heaven, he could at least exert control over the earthly paradise and its inhabitants. Lucifer's reasons for manipulating Eve stem from a complex mix of envy, arrogance, thirst for control, and perhaps even a sense of unjust treatment driving him to get back at God through one of his most cruel schemes of deception recorded in the Bible. Strategic deception, Lucifer's temptation techniques. The Genesis account provides details on how Lucifer cunningly tempted Eve to disobey God's rule not to eat fruit from the tree of knowledge. His careful tactics reveal much about his psychology. Lucifer took on the form of a serpent, a creature associated with deception and cunning. Rather than overtly forcing Eve, he skillfully used rhetorical questioning and flattery. He sowed small seeds of doubt, asking, "Did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden?" This cleverly hinted that perhaps God was being unreasonable. When Eve affirmed they were forbidden from eating from the tree, Lucifer declared she would not die, but instead become wise like God. This appealed to Eve's vanity at the prospect of elevated status. Portraying the fruit as desirable for making one wise subtly shifted the temptation from overt disobedience to an offer of empowerment Eve found hard to resist. By presenting himself as sympathetic to Eve and questioning God's motives, Lucifer played on psychology to achieve his devious aims through calculated persuasion rather than outright coercion. Paradise lost, the consequences of Lucifer's success. Lucifer's carefully planned temptation of Eve proved catastrophically effective. After eating the forbidden fruit, she gave some to Adam, who also partook. This first sin irreversibly changed human destiny in paradise. God discovered their transgression and evicted them from Eden, cursing Adam to labor and Eve to suffer in childbirth. Lucifer's trickery initiated humanity's fall from idyllic grace. Beyond losing paradise, the disobedience introduced original sin into humankind. Where once Adam and Eve lived innocently without shame, now they recognized guilt, lust, greed, pride and ethical complexity, according to Christian doctrine. The stain of original sin made salvation impossible without Christ's later sacrifice. So while Lucifer sought petty vengeance, he profoundly altered human nature. Cast out from Eden, Eve and Adam's descendants were susceptible to further sin and evil. Abel soon fell victim to Cain's jealousy. As sin proliferated, so did Lucifer's influence over humankind. Thus Lucifer's legacy was initiating humanity's potential for wickedness and severance from God's presence. His small manipulative act of deception yielded catastrophic damage still felt by Christians today.
Conclusions on the legacy of Lucifer. Interpretations of the iconic figure of Lucifer are deeply polarized between positive and negative appraisals. His legacy elicits continued debate. On the negative side, many condemn Lucifer as Christianity has for millennia. His pride, disobedience, vengeance, and rebellion fundamentally reject God's authority. Lucifer introduced evil into paradise and humanity through malicious manipulation. He is rightfully demonized and synonymous with Satan as the embodiment of sin and wickedness. However, more positive perspectives argue Lucifer represents illumination, free will, knowledge, and human enlightenment. His temptation of Eve set humanity on a destined path to moral awareness, mental growth, and fulfillment of potential. Bringing light bears risks, but is necessary for progress. Lucifer challenges conformity and orthodoxy. Additionally, psychological views propose Lucifer represents the shadow aspect within all people. His flaws reflect humanity's capacity for both good and evil. Lucifer epitomizes desire, ambition, curiosity, pride, and liberation, qualities which build civilizations or destroy them. Perhaps God's plan needed a tempter. In the end, while theology insists on clear verdicts of right and wrong, Lucifer inhabits a complex space in the human psyche. His legacy elicits both righteous contempt and awed admiration. For millennia, his mythos has compelled us to ask difficult questions. Examine our motivations, and choose our own fates.